Welcome. Thank you for hopping on to join us for today's Microstrat Chat, the MSP perspective. We are so excited to have you here. These Microstrat Chats have been a great way for us to really connect with our community and with our peers and just have some conversation, natural conversation. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce your moderators for today. So we have Mark Longfield, Alex, and Brian with us, all from MicroStrategy's MSP leadership team. I am going to go ahead and pass it over to them to kick this off. And just one final reminder, we are recording this session, so I just want to make sure everyone's aware of that. And if you have any questions and you don't feel like you want to come off mute to say them, feel free to type them in the chat and we will ask them to your moderators for you. Go ahead, Mark.
Okay. Hey, thanks everybody for joining today. Good afternoon. I'm Mark Longfield from MicroStrategies. I run the MSP practice. I'm out of the Parsippany office in New Jersey, the main location there. We've been in business for about 37 years. And I will roll it over to Alex.
Hey everyone, welcome. My name is Alex Messiger. I'm a managed services architect with Micro. I've been with the company a little over a year. And helping us craft new services and solutions for our clients. And I'll pass along to Brian.
Hey, good afternoon, guys. My name is Brian Carroll. I'm been with MicroStrategy a little over a year now. Out of the Parsippany office with Mark and Alex. I'm the technical account manager, responsible for the managed services practice. Turn it over to Vivek.
Hi everyone, good afternoon. My name is Vivek. I operate from Bangalore, India office. I work as part of IP Digital, which is a main subsidiary of MicroStrategies. We started in the last year, in the September 2019. So I've been in the industry for about 15 years now. Thank you.
And hello, I'm Jim Caprero. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of IP Digital, a subsidiary of MicroStrategies. I was one of the initial founders and bring about 36 to 37 years of industry experience. So welcome everybody. I'm really happy to be here today. With that, I go back to Mark.
I'm gonna open the panel. If we could just go around the table virtually, if we will, and just kind of introduce yourself if you don't mind.
Yeah, hi, I'm Ravi here. I'm the CEO and founder of Gradient M, and we are a partner for IP Digital in India. I bring in about 30 years of industry experience in global IT infrastructure. Okay. Good to join this meeting.
Welcome.
Welcome. Brian?
Hi, this is Rohil Bhatia. A lot of you know me at MicroStrategies. I represent this company called Blvd Technologies, which is based in India. We deal in process consulting and enterprise automation solutions, which are typically IT automation. Glad to be part of this forum.
Welcome, Rahul.
Mm-hmm.
Brian?
Hi, I'm Bryan Johnson. I run a small software business called Goes Into now that we do integrations with ConnectWise Manage. I also was part of a MSP for 10 years prior to that.
Welcome.
Nice setup you got there.
Thank you.
Yeah, it puts all of ours to shame. I don't have a microphone.
It does help a little bit with the audio quality, but I think they're a little hard to get these days.
A little bit, along with video cameras, right? All right.
And I think the only other participant we have that's outside of Micro is Jason.
Yep. Hi, my name is Jason Nolan. I work for an MSP, and I have about 15 to 20 years of IT experience, and it's my first time participating in one of these chats. So I'm real interested in meeting the group and participating.
Great, thank you. Welcome. Alex?
So I just wanted to kick things off a little bit. We all have been in some sort of isolation or quarantine or lockdown for a while, and we may have even participated in chats, discussions like this previously with other organizations. So our goal with coming together, bringing other vendors in the field and other peers in the field together is to discuss how we've been coping with the situation, what changes we've made to better serve our clients, what are we observing in in the behavior of our client base, and just basically to share information and help each other through everything that's going on.
Yeah, the ever-changing environments out there, right? We're coping and morphing in to do what we need to do for our customers.
No problem. मैं भी वो webinar में हूँ. मैं आपको खत्म करके करूँ.
Rohil?
Yeah, मैं.
I think you're. Okay, thanks.
My apologies.
No worries.
No worries. No worries.
Well, so can we jump right in?
Yeah, absolutely.
Please, if it's an open forum.
Having been, this is a new experience, I think, for everybody, and the challenge I see is just getting people to get more comfortable doing things remotely from a standpoint, and from an MSP perspective, I would think the challenges are a bit different because you're not dealing with people working in an office. So some of the criteria you use to help support them have changed. And I don't know if you guys found that when you get people calling in with problems or trying to do things.
I'll start it off, and I'd love to hear from everybody else too. But Jim, one of the main things that we saw right out of the beginning was people didn't even have enough workstations, laptops, things to work from home because they kind of got up off their desk and then they were told not to come back to work. They didn't bring anything from work, and if they did do it, they didn't have enough licenses to connect, whether that was terminal server CALs or a connection method. Right? They had enough for disaster recovery. Right, if they wanted to fail over to a disaster, but this is business continuity, very different, right? So we had issues and we resolved them, a lot of them, all of them, I should say, for all of our customers. It took a few weeks, to get them out of the weeds and make sure they had the right documentation and the right licensing, but absolutely leveraging and leaning on our vendors to help us get those as quickly as possible. I'm curious if you guys had the same type of experience.
Yeah, this is Ravi here. See, based on, our company has been there for about 18 months or so. Somehow this COVID became a tipping point for our, client acquisition in terms of, we didn't have a very big client, but because of this COVID, we got an opportunity to engage with a big client and scale up their Citrix infrastructure to cope up with 5,000 remote users. And at the same time, set up a BCP service desk, which is totally remotely work from home. So some of the learnings that we have had in that time is, while we set up the infrastructure, scale it up, ultimately it all boils down to the local broadband connectivity. So we have had people struggling with, the last mile connectivity and some call management software like Serenova and all not able to work properly. There were the initial teething problems. We have been operational for the last 1 month for that account, but off late it has got streamlined. But I agree with you, you may arrange everything on the technology side at the back end, but ultimately it depends on what kind of laptop they have, whether they have a USB headset or whether their memory is good enough or the last mile connectivity, how it is and how stable it is, right? So things boil down to the basics sometimes. And of course, there is anxiety of managing people from remote and whether they are productive, the metrics are right enough, and also being empathetic to them, because some of them stay in a small rooms, and at that time, if there is some background noise and all that, right? So I think this is a different working experience, but it works. At the end of it, it works. We have not had any major drop in matrices performance, but it works at the end. But initially, we had that infrastructure setup problem at the end user side, not so much at the back end.
Yeah. Many great points there. I mean, there are a lot of talking points out there that we can kind of go off on. But yeah, that's great. How about we'll talk about the need for our customers to actually see if they're productive, right? And we've been seeing a lot of that lately. And we actually have a couple of different things that we do right now for our customers so they can see that their customers are actually working. But yeah, who else? Anybody else feel that? Any different?
So I have a very different perspective from this. about 2.5 years ago, I spun off Goes Into from the company that was my MSP, and I founded Goes Into as a 100% remote company. So there are 6 or 7 of us now. I lose count. It's really bad when I lose count at this size, right? But we have people in different parts of the country. Everybody works from home. And so obviously when COVID happened, we didn't really change anything from that perspective. But a work from home company, you know, I did a fair amount of research before I started, and you do need to have a different mindset when managing. We use Slack extensively. We also use a tool called Geekbot that plugs into Slack, and it asks some questions every day to get some engagement from people on what they've been working on, what they're going to work on, but also some stuff, you know, sometimes we throw some fun questions in there just to kind of promote those conversations. You have to, and I guess the key point I'm getting at here is when everybody's remote, you have to work extra hard to communicate. You need to over communicate with people. And you need to work extra hard and put extra effort into maintaining the corporate culture that you want, and even having a culture, because you need to promote those things within your people, and it doesn't come automatically when you don't have a water cooler to collect around, right?
That's very true, Bryan.
That's very true. It's running the day-to-day for managed services, that was definitely a challenge I had. You know, my background, I did have global teams in some previous positions, but we were accustomed to that, and going from 90% in the office to 100% remote, we had to get through a lot of those challenges too. So
yeah, just have a perspective over there. I think it's the change that we're seeing is not temporary in nature. A lot of this is going to be irreversible, because when I talk to CIOs or even different businesses, we're seeing the disruption here, and we're seeing a very positive disruption here. We are a 45 people company. We spread across India, and so this work from home and ownership based culture of working is not new to us. Because when you are a quote unquote startup or starting up, we're just 4 years old in the market. So we have no other way. I think that's what Bryan was also trying to emphasize on. We have a growing company has no other way but to have passionate people who are turning up every day, not seeing each other, but still contributing with all the zeal towards that goal. So there are a lot of companies like Bryan's Goes Into, our Intelivate, for whom this is not a new thing. That this is our BAU. This is how we've been working, and the world is learning these new ways of working. The positive side of this disruption is, and I was talking to a BPO CXO the other day. They're saying that they've seen unprecedented things happening. They've seen banking processes getting ported to work from home. They could never imagine in their lifetime with all of those compliances in place that a banking back office process could be ported to work from home, right? So they're realizing that there is world beyond traditional ways of working, and people are giving few things a shot which they would have not given in a traditional mindset, because the market was driving a lot of things. Another thing that has happened is, if you take an example of TCS. TCS is one of the biggest IT service providers, not only in India, I think across the world. They're one of the biggest in terms of at least IT services, right? They've taken a call post, basis this pandemic, saying we're going to have 70% of our workforce, which is around 150,000 or whatever, work out of their homes even when this pandemic ends, right? So this pandemic has got a lot of irreversible things, a lot of disruption that is going to drive the market, and in terms the way MSPs serve the customers. And it's not a grim scenario; it's a very positive scenario for MSPs.
Yeah, and if I could just jump in here, Rohil, that's really good points. And I'm going to step back to a previous environment where I worked in. I worked for a major global corporation of 40,000 employees in 170 countries. And we spent about 2 years developing a broad-based business continuity plan. And I think Mark had mentioned that earlier. You know, we're not talking disaster recovery. We're talking business continuity. One of my first observations in looking at the MSP environment is there are quite a few companies in there that have still not been able to distinguish between business continuity and disaster recovery. So I believe it's one of the challenges and opportunities we have to explain to people it's different. It's the type of thing like taking a piece, you get a laptop. The reason you get a laptop is to take it home every day in case you have to go to work. One of the other things is, I agree with Rohil, the world has changed. Things that we are going to see changing. The open office concept is going to change. We are going to understand that collaboration does not mean face-to-face working together. These are going to be inherent in throughout organizations, and they're going to be looking more to the support levels, I think, that the MSP providers can give to them, because they are going to be more remote, they're going to be more diverse, and they're going to be working, and they're going to working more with technologies, and they're going to need that support. No longer will one person on site be able to support 100, 200, 1,000 people working remotely. So I agree. I think, Rohil, the world has changed. It's not changing. It's changed. It's now our responsibility, I believe, to make sure we can support this new environment.
And to that point, it seems to me like there's some natural advantages MSP already has, because we already do 90+% of our support remotely and physically independent of a particular office. Does anyone else see the landscape or the percentage of IT support being provided in various industries shifting more toward MSP, or is this really status quo?
So Alex, I think, sorry, Ravi.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Okay. I think there's a lot of inherent advantage that MSPs have at this point in time. See, if you look at it cost down, a lot of people unfortunately are going to be laid off, right? But at the core of it is cost. People are going to want to store cash, reserve cash, and that is going to drive a lot of budget cuts. Right? Mm-hmm. When budget cuts are driven, you'll have innovative MSPs coming up and changing the game. So what do I mean by that? So if we were doing if we were pursuing an opportunity that had, let's say, 50 people that had to be supplied, or even 10 people team that was going to support an infrastructure, we're not going to have that luxury now. MSPs are going to look at innovative ways such as automation, right? Having an L0 layer kind of auto remediating a lot of stuff. You're going to have chatbots replacing service desk. You're going to have L1 replaced by L1.5 layer, which means they're kind of doing the L2 jobs as well, right? So there is a lot of inherent advantage that MSPs have, but only the MSPs who are willing to break away the previous ways of working and are looking to cannibalize their own FTE model and look at more innovative automation driven model. Those are the MSPs that are going to thrive and see unprecedented growth. But it'll need that change in mindset of moving away from people-centric model to an automation-centric model.
Okay, I agree.
Yeah, another point, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I agree completely with that. And it kind of ties in with what I was thinking of saying. So, this pandemic is accelerating, obviously, the work from home thing. It's also a recession. Recessions tend to accelerate innovation that was already happening and tend to push changes that are already happening in the market. And so I already have been hearing news reports where they're talking about manufacturing companies pushing more automation. And I think, those points about MSPs pushing more automation, everybody's looking for ways to save money and automate more. And so there's obviously anybody in the IT field, there's opportunities there for us in that. But I also, so the one thing that people have mentioned to me at conferences and stuff in the past, it's every once in a while you get this person that says, you know what, the MSP model is going to die because everything's moving to the cloud. And so, you know, I spent some time a while back thinking about that. Is that really true? But obviously, this is going to accelerate the move to the cloud as well, because people are working from home more. So what I think the key point of that is what's the new ways that MSPs need to work in that world? I don't believe that there's less opportunities for MSPs. Cloud applications need as much support as on-premise applications. Businesses need as much.
And gosh knows you're not going to get that support from AWS support directly, because it's the lowest common denominator on their phone queue. Managed service providers, I've spent the last 2 months on the phone with AWS, and I can tell you that what the managed services space is going to become is much like the Cisco Gold Bars were of old. It's going to be a large middleman to translate whatever the hell the AWS guy is saying on the other end of the phone, and then actually performing whatever automation and interviewing programmers.
Well,
interviewing programmers. I mean,
that's actually where my thought process originally went with that. It's like, okay, things are shifting to the cloud, and MSPs are just going to become a middleman, and it's going to be a race to the bottom who can be the middleman the best. But I kind of moved away from that, and I think there's still the need for, as you said, interviewing programmers, because providing those integrations between these large software packages that are in the cloud, there's still a big consultative need for which cloud solutions are right for my business versus the other business. There's so many of them.
Agree with that, and I would further kind of double down on the interviewing program statement by saying, assessing whether or not people can parse out the difference between what you can do with automation versus what you should do with automation, which, you know, get 10 developers and 0.5% of them will actually do what they're supposed to be doing with it.
As a company that does development, I agree with you.
Yeah, I think the scope boundaries for MSPs are going to be rewritten. I would not use the word middlemen. I would say innovation aggregators. I think MSPs are going to become innovation aggregators of sorts, wherein there's a lot of OEM-centric innovation happening, and any MSP who can take all of that innovation, create that into a pre-packaged platform for smooth, I would not even say IT service delivery, but a business objective achievement, is going to thrive. So I think it's again, moving away from that people mindset of providing technical support on AWS or network or router or a particular application to a more user-centric business problem or business enabler technology providers, where the MSP world needs to go.
Rohil, I think you're right. I mean, think about the multi-cloud, the hybrid solutions. I mean, what phone are you going to call? What support number? You know, we're going to be that support reach out. We're going to make it work. We understand the environment. We're going to take care of it for them, and at a quicker pace than waiting for 2 hours on a phone at AWS, or God forbid it's Microsoft, right? So we're going to have a great position with that type of environment. And again, you guys are talking about the cloud. I've seen a lot of our customers today. They want to now move everything to the cloud. They want to move everything to SaaS. They want very, very little. These are all the same conversations we've been having for years with them, and they dip their toe in the water on some of them. Some of them they bite the bullet, and they put a lot of equipment out there, but they're still not 100% there. I'm going to tell you, over the past 7 weeks, that mindset has changed quite a bit. So we're seeing a lot of projects coming of this, although some of the customers don't want it to happen right now. They want to have it happen, after, this starts coming down, the pandemic, and they're able to get back into their office and see it. But there's a lot of opportunities, I think, for all of us. And I'm not sure if you guys have seen that or not, but we're seeing a lot of that happening right now.
There's one area for sure. Sorry, Alex, please go ahead.
No. I was just going to say, ironically, I think we've signed up as much new business as we've lost, right, Mark?
Yeah, in 7 weeks, right? It's crazy. It's good.
I can say this. I can say this: the banking industry, the bank I work for, did more business in the last month than they did in the prior year.
Yeah.
And what exactly, what are they doing? What do they need from you to do? Like, what was it? Was it support? Was it, you know, new systems? Was it?
No, I mean, this is loan business, actual mortgage.
Actual business for them. Okay, gotcha. Yeah.
Actual business.
That means they're going to be paying us to do the support for our customers.
It means the opportunities are there.
Yeah.
It's the vendor that can create that prepackaged or even that customized environment. And again, knowing your market space is a huge thing. Some MSPs get caught up on the prepackaged concept and forget to realize that your larger customers, your enterprise customers, have no interest in anything prepackaged. If you're going after Johnson & Johnson or GE or a DoD account or a defense contractor account, they're expecting absolutely everything to be customized to a degree that they get whatever they want at whatever price you give them. They just want the best of the best, and they don't really want to mince words or get what the guy next door has.
I see your eyebrows twitching, Jim.
Well, that's one way to look at it, but
it's a more challenging sell. But
I came from an organization that would have done just the opposite. We don't want anything. We want to be able to be the best at execution. We looked at. We really didn't want to have in-house developed specialty things for us. So it's a matter of perspective. I can't say it's universal that companies want that. We wanted to drive down cost and provide our customers and our users with the best support possible. So we did not look for custom-made solutions, but but I will tell you, there are certain companies that go out and they want a whole ton of customized stuff, and not even at the corporate enterprise level. For each of their different divisions, they all want something a little bit different because they're in competition with what they have. I think that is where automation does come into play, because if you can model what your delivery systems are going to be, what you're going to support, and then you can build upon the automation to give each customer and have them something a little different, and then have them feel really special. What is managed service? Managed services, your customer feels really special, that you're treating them really well and delivering results. So when you can treat them, when they feel that way, you've got to win.
Well, I think somebody brought it up before, and this is where managed services really has a sweet spot, right? Nobody wants to spend 2 hours on the phone with AWS. You can give that immediate support. MSPs, we have that knowledge. We have the AWS, we have the Azure, the application experience. You can't resolve it, we can do the footwork for you. I think service is a differentiator on with everything. It doesn't matter, what level you're at. You're providing service. People want that. People want somebody picks up the phone quick. They want to be able to know who they're on the phone with. So.
Well, but focusing on AWS, I mean, what business that has no in-house IT is going to be doing business directly with AWS in the first place? They're going to be doing business with, Asanas and Microsoft for Office 365 or Google, but they're not going directly to AWS.
There's a lot of MSPs that don't go directly to AWS. They're going to Pax8 or, CW or any one of the other CSPs that are out there. I've even myself have tried to get, in direct contact with AWS support resources from a business development side to design some of our services in-house, and they don't give me the time of day. Like unless you have a certain number of zeros behind your monthly spend, you're just, to me, it seems like you're just a fly on the windshield for them. I've even read stories of major broadcast providers that are they're trying to stream to millions of people using AWS infrastructure, and their support, is not as supportive as you'd think, like them being a large organization. So, I think
if you're a small company, I think going to AWS is not an easy thing. You definitely need an MSP contract with a service provider like us to deal with, because AWS, if you have a premium package, then you get support from them, or else you have to wait days together to get support from them. Even for companies like Microsoft, it's not easy to get support directly. If you're a small company, you have to rely on somebody else to get support from.
Yeah.
The SLA is there, right? So that's what
Yeah.
we're all about.
I think, from our perspective, we were looking at, because of this whole business continuity thing kicking in, what are the offerings that we need to reposition or, redevelop, right?
Mhm.
So while we were doing this, companies are getting more and more serious about BCP because of this event that has happened. So probably we feel that a cloud-based VDI solution or even on-prem VDI solution will pick up momentum, and also the whole concept of BYOD will get more traction. So that probably we are looking at those areas in terms of capturing the new business. And just another data point is, just about a few hours back, there was the Gartner conference webinar. I saw in that the IT budget, the CFOs are saying that the IT budgets will be slashed anywhere between 10% to 35%, depending on how tight the lockdown is in your industry, like airlines or whatever, right? So IT budgets are anyway going to get very significantly. They will come back to the similar growth in another 3 years, I'm told. But probably some of the unique services that we need to think of and launch to capture the window of opportunity for the client.
I'm just curious how that budget gets slashed so much when, is it just sheer reduction of scale of the workforce? That's what's driving that budget reduction?
No, actually what's happening is, the revenues have come down, right? I know every company's revenues are coming down from a business, let's say it's a retail or whichever industry.
Mm-hmm.
So based on that, IT being a cost center automatically has to slash their budgets. And then within their budget, they need to reconfigure their services, either bring more cheaper vendors or use more automation, as you guys were talking about. They have to find a new service solution to manage everything in that particular slash budget. You can easily take average, just cutting down on 20% at least, if not more, using a combination of newer products, automation, and other globalized delivery. Because combination of remote delivery and cloud, it opens up huge new opportunities actually, right? In terms of having one global delivery model at an optimal cost and a talent source from everywhere. So I think that's how I see it playing out. But it because of business revenue coming down, some people have lost revenue for 1 quarter, some will lose for 2 quarters, some would have filed for Chapter 11 and all that stuff, right? So a lot of disturbance will happen from that perspective.
Sorry, Jim. It reminds me of a pursuit that I was part of in 2012. It was when Nokia was going through downfall, and we were a part of a pursuit wherein they had to slash their IT budgets by 50%. So they had a annual IT budget of $1 billion. They had to slash it by 50%, and said, our budget is $500 million. We did a great presentation to them, and our solution was somewhere around $750 million. Right, and we were able to achieve everything that they were getting in $1 billion, and we thought that we had done a great job. But they took a time out and came back to us and said, guys, we don't think you're understanding. We're not asking you to give us whatever you can at 750. Tell us what can we get in 500. And that's when all of that innovation started. We never imagined that Nokia, throughout their end user small offices, will give away all the lease lines and get into broadband, right? So there's going to be a lot of disruption. This is to your point, Alex. So what kind of disruption? Unprecedented disruption. There's going to be questioning on why do we need this, right? Why do we need this platform, this software, this hardware?
Yeah.
Why do we need a MacBook and not a normal Lenovo machine? So there's going to be a scrutiny on each and everything, right? From higher execs losing their jobs, or having to pay at work at lower salaries, to hardwares, to the softwares, to looking at more innovative ways. It's going to have. This is very exciting time. I don't mean to sound sadist, but for an automation savvy organization, these are very interesting times.
Oh, you're
right?
just Rohil, just to go in there, playing on what you just said. Is I've read in several places now, and this was prior to the COVID pandemic, that people are looking to renegotiate all of their MSP type contracts with the larger players, because as automation has come into play, they're feeling that they can drive down costs for some of their contracts. I think this is a great opportunity for smaller MSP providers to get their foot in the door to do certain things, because you put that on top of the pandemic, there are going to be some real opportunities out there where people are looking support. And I think to your point, and you're right, coming from a business, it's nice to say we have to have all the technology, but what really drives what we spend is how much the business gives the IT department to spend. They will make the tough decisions when it comes to what should we do. And sometimes IT falls out of play there, certain things.
So you don't think there's any potential for reshuffling of priorities because of how workers are working remotely? Like, doesn't IT infrastructure become even more important now because you are, or at least the spending?
It's not saying that the IT infrastructure is not important, Alex. It's saying you're going to do it cheaper and I'm giving you less money to do it. So you need to innovate. I think one of the other people on the call said we need to innovate now. They're looking for, recession drives innovation. That's true. They're going to say, okay, if you can give me everything I have at the same price, great. But what's going to drive everything is the price, is how much is in your budget.
Unless you can come up with opportunities that you can make a business case for that saves them money elsewhere.
Correct. You're absolutely right, Brian. Yeah, that's absolutely correct. If you can add business sales and business value, sure. But if it's just to keep the lights on, no, they want the cost lower. They'll pull a light bulb out if they could.
Bingo. Yeah, every decision that my department made last summer has been subject to now how are we going to change existing structure or ditch existing structure to back solve so that our budget is as even as possible going into the next year.
Correct. Yeah, I've seen that. And I would tell you some of the other areas that are quite interesting that really, it's amazing, and in the U.S. in particular, and they're struggling with it in India too. I mean, in fairness, India went to a very severe lockdown, so our staffs in India are all working remotely and supporting customers from home and teaching their children from home. School systems and the public sector, there's a lot of opportunities there because they were not prepared for really, truthfully, the work from home environment. They're not prepared for that. Yeah. They're prepared for big structures, lots of people going into a big structure. I know of one case in a local town, they wouldn't give Chromebooks out, a big city in the Midwest, they wouldn't give their Chromebooks out to the student because they felt they'd never get them back. So it's a very, that's another big area of opportunity coming.
Yeah, there's a big gap, a big obvious gap that's kind of been revealed there, right? Like they may have been using technology as part of their daily workflow, but they weren't using it to enable the physical live teaching and the education experience. So like you add that connectivity in as a necessity, as a required component, that's changing the requirements for the technology that has to support that operation. And they're like, and my mother was a public school teacher for 25 years. She was actually part of a pilot technology program that installed ISDN lines in every teacher's home. This is back in the 90s when ISDN was like a big deal. And even today, like there isn't that type of support from public school districts to say, okay, we're going to ensure students have connectivity from the home, right? So it seems like there's a big potential opportunity there too.
My wife's a teacher, and I watch her work 16-hour days just trying to get papers graded. It's as great as Google Classroom is, it's not being utilized in a efficient way, right? There's definitely opportunity there.
Think about the mobile device management that is needed, that they thought they had before everybody took their Chromebooks home and worked from home. I mean, it's.
I cringe. I mean, thankfully they're all my Chromebooks, But
well, in our school district, that they get their own, right? So I have two teenagers, and they take them home, and if there's any issue, it's still connected, right? They're managing remotely, just like we do with our clients. I don't think they were expecting what they're going through right now, right?
no, they weren't, and I think they lock them down a lot too. Like, they're kids, right? So like, for example, when my wife first came home, I'm like, well, just fire up a chat, do a video with your, well, we can't. The IT department has it locked down because the kids were, taking advantage of it. So are there different, management solutions out there that can work with the Chromebooks, or even Microsoft? And, I think New York just signed up with the Bill Gates Foundation to do something with their, with the New York City public schools. I can't remember if it's New York or New York City, but
So it was brought up earlier in the conversation, I think right in the beginning. It was like, how do we monitor, or customers asking, can you monitor our workforce? Same thing with schools, right? Are they actually working? And, I'm curious on what you guys are actually doing for that. Like, is there something that you're utilizing? Are you getting that question asked? Like, it's something they never had before. Maybe they didn't really want to utilize it. Now they're going, yeah, we really want to know. People connecting, or people actually working? Do you guys see that?
Yes, we are. So there's an OEM that I can suggest that we have partnered with. It's called ProHands. It's a Bangalore, India-based solution that's into user productivity management, right? And we're seeing a lot of customers adopting that solution now, because it kind of takes screenshots and gives you analytics based on your role on, what each user is doing, which software did they use for how much time, so on and so forth, right? So we tried to get it a bit too early into the market because people were still setting up the BCPs and figuring out the RSA tokens and so on and so forth. But now that, since all of that has settled down, now they're looking at, all of this. So this is one proposition that is apart from Zoom,
right?
And that's selling like hotcakes right now. So if right now, this is one solution that people are looking for.
Well, one thing, we're always on video chat, but if you're not, you're actually trying to work, getting in and getting your job done. We have customers asking for that type of solution. So yeah, we have developed something as well. But I'm just curious, there's other companies asking for that having. So that seems to be something that we're going to be obviously doing more and more as this continues. So actually, we're seeing a lot of it from all of our customers, and I'm just curious if you do.
Yeah, there are two other aspects that I'm seeing as a trend that would come up in next 3 to 6 months, depending on how long this pandemic pans out. But one is that WHO is going to come up with certain guidelines for workplaces and public places, right? And that will have to be adopted. For example, contact tracing, right? So visitor management systems will need to have contact tracing of, if a particular visitor came into an office, how many people did he meet, right? So on and so forth, and maintaining social distancing, so on and so forth. So the workplace management is going to go beyond just desktops, laptops, VDIs, right? And it all depends on what MSPs are open to. If you look at workplace management now, it's actually going to be workplace management in its true sense, not only technology, but how do you use technology to ensure that there's proper distancing within people. That could be IoT sensors, that could be proximity-based sensors, that could be analytics, that could be seat management systems, that could be intelligent visitor management systems, right? Contact tracing in terms of geotagging, so on and so forth. So workplace management, again, is going to be something that is going to be compliance-driven, wherein there's going to be a government norm. If this pans out longer than all of us think, then I see that coming next 3 months. Another avenue for us is if any of the MSPs are working with the government sector, with the federal or public sector, lockdown management and pandemic management and disaster management is another area. In fact, I just did a solution for one of the state governments in India, wherein we're doing a COVID management portal using ServiceNow. So since we're not allowed to go out, there's an option of grocery stores near me, or pharmacies near me, or nearest quarantine centers, self-assessment, reporting some asymptomatic person. We have a lot of people moving through different states in India, so migrant labor helplines, so on and so forth. So a lot of since governments will have to kickstart the economy, there's going to be a lot of pandemic related, future management that is going to be a part of disaster management, so to say, and
So
solutions for that.
To your point, Rohel, I mean, to add to that, you got the temperature sent, you gotta, people are going to want to know, people coming in the door, do they have a fever? Do they have a temperature? It's critical. We're actually looking at some of that today, as that maybe that's a possible solution that we can manage for our customers.
And as a person who was quarantined once in China, because when I got off the train, I had a temperature. It makes you think when you get pushed into a room with everybody wearing white suits, and you are not able to speak Mandarin. It really gets people. It changes the way you approach things. Of saying, if I have a temperature, I'm not going out. And I think you're going to see more of that happening, and it's probably for the good of it, because right now it's always been, I have to go to work versus I have to keep everybody healthy, and both can coexist. But I think you're right. We're going to see more and more of that, just like key cards to get in a building. They're going to tie the key card with a temperature monitoring.
Yep, it's key card access, physical access, but extended to biology.
Some help, yes, some help, some temperature guidance, radar, infrared. It's coming, and I've seen it in action throughout Asia. When I forget which of the flus were out there when I was in Thailand and the other
It's
places.
not hard to imagine like a wide field IR camera that if it detects a temperature, it shoots off a ticket to the service desk, right? Like it says, hey, someone has been detected with a fever coming into the building, and
yeah, this set it off to the police. So
that's actually, Alex, that's actually the point I was making. We just started looking into that. We actually have a couple coming to our building to evaluate that solution.
Oh, wow. There you go.
Yeah. So that's a perfect transition.
Big business for them.
To that point, I think I just got an opportunity. One of the leading two-wheeler manufacturers, right, globally, the motorcycle manufacturers, they're looking at, they reached out to us because they're looking at developing a contactless sales solution. So wherein there is no physical person in the store selling motorbikes, but still the sales can happen. And they're not looking at robots. They're looking at chaos. They're looking at holograms, holographic images, so on and so forth. So some really cool, stuff that we thought is futuristic,
right,
is gonna come.
It's gonna be immediate. Yeah,
I didn't hear yesterday.
Anybody else?
Well, the back to the thing about monitoring employees. I've never liked being in the business of selling solutions that I think are bad, and I do think those solutions aren't the right approach for the problem. I really believe the answer is good old-fashioned management. You need to monitor. You want to results-based management of employees, results-based performance monitoring, not how long you're at a keyboard and what windows you have open. Making sure somebody's at a desk and sitting there all day was never good performance management, even though some managers have only felt comfortable with that. And moving that to online is not a good thing. Now, if you have a customer, as an MSP, if you have a customer who's really, they won't get out of that mindset and they want a solution, well, you might as well make money selling them the solution.
Yeah, so it's that, and then we have analytics that we can put behind it to look at how much work is being performed. To your point, that is obviously forefront and center, right? That is number one.
Yeah.
And that was interesting because what Rohil said earlier about some companies or industries have an ownership-based culture, and you're trying to reconcile that with some of those monitoring applications. And what are you measuring basically at the end of the day? How do you measure productivity? What's important to you as a business? And I think the culture of the business dictates that, right? So some call center based businesses that may be processing medical claims, for example, they may look and say, okay, I need you to, process 4 medical claims a day for your salary to be justified. They're going to be looking at that. But is it better to measure the completed on the claim, or is it better to look at screen time or application use? Like, I think that mix, and I looked into that application, Rohil. It seems very powerful and very granular in terms of, like, you can choose what you want to measure, and you can use it to analyze and break open processes, personal workflows, and say, like, okay, you spent this much time doing this. Why did you do that? Identify an inefficiency and correct it, right? So, excuse me. So, like, I think those tools.
Could you name drop that product again, Alex?
Rohit, what was it called again?
It's Prohance, PROHANCE.
Yeah. So how it's used, I think, is going to be determined by the culture of the business.
Yes.
So
I think
sounds like a
quick time check, guys. I just want to let you guys know we've got 7 minutes left. 7 minutes left. So I want to make sure if there's any other questions that we haven't brought up, I want to get everybody to come back in and ask those questions. Go ahead,
yeah, I just sorry. I think I'm speaking a lot, but this is a really good discussion.
No, it's all good. It's all good.
So I think Brian brought out a point which is really important. I wanted to understand how all of you are handling this. And Brian, to your point, I'm just a vegan who has a meat store, so I don't eat chicken, but I'm still selling it. Right. But I think we talked about external facing situations, but in all of this, all of us are faced with situations maybe that we still managing our finances fine, but we can't be insulated. It's going to hit us sooner or later. How are we all motivating our workforces? How are we making sure that we take everyone along? I think is a few pointers that, beyond technology and business, more on the HR and employee wellness perspective. Just wanted to share a couple of points that I did and maybe take your inputs. Much before all of this hit, I had a call with all 45 employees in the company and apprised them of where this is going to go. We all reached a consensus that we're not going to have any layoffs. We're not going to fire anyone. If we reach a situation wherein we have cash crunch, we all are going to take salary cuts and make sure we all take each other along. Another thing that we did was we created task force wherein we made people responsible for different things. For example, even the delivery people were now going back to their customer and seeing how they can create more business. So doing that, we were able to get them on the same side of the table. So there was no gap between the management and the employees. We're all one team trying to solve a big problem. But luckily, we've not reached that. We're just doing it proactively. We just wanted to understand what all other, all of you are doing and maybe adopt all of that internally, because I think we are services company, and services company is all about people. So how can we take care of them is something I wanted to understand from all of you.
Anybody else want to join in on that or chime in on that?
No, go ahead, Mark.
No, just we're basically I don't want to be the one speaking all the time. I know there's other people on here, right? So yeah, we're absolutely wearing multiple hats, right? Everybody's pitching in, right? Where yes, I run a managed service practice, right? I've been with Micro for 20 plus years. I wear a lot of hats to begin with, but I'm also a sales guy right now, because I'm just doing what I need to do. I'm pre-sales, I'm post-sales, I'm doing whatever needs to happen. And you see that happening throughout the whole company, to your point. Everybody's doing what they need to do to make sure that we maintain that business. And the most important thing is reaching out to all of our clients, right? It didn't come up yet, but like what we're doing right now is reaching out to all of our clients. I mean, if it's not on a weekly basis, it's every other week, because some clients had everything they needed to do to actually work remotely, but they didn't talk to us, and they were sitting there, doing paperwork. And I'm like, guys, you don't have a business continuity set up, but you have like a terminal server farm with RD gateway and secure multi-factor authentication. Oh, we do? And I'm like, yeah, you do. We gave you the documentation. This is what you have. And it just slipped their mind completely because of the pandemic, and their business, and their more manufacturing. So they kind of all had to go, and they thought it was done. Well, within about half a day, they were all back and working again. So communicating with your customers, and it doesn't matter if it's us, it's Brian, it's Alex, it's somebody, anybody, just reaching out, you're going to see that happening. So your point, we're wearing a lot of hats, and we're just doing what we need to do.
I think it was really just doubling down on the being proactive, reaching out, making sure that we're not the ones being called to meet a need. We're calling on them and saying, hey, how can we help you? and because that relationship, that's going to be, we really believe that's going to be remembered, you know, through and after the crisis, and that relationship is, you know, where ultimately revenue follows trust and the relationship. So
to your point, we bend our rules a little bit. Do we give everything away? No, but with a lot of our managed services customers, we bent the rules. People that maybe didn't have help desk or service desk, we allowed it to happen until they got up and running. And you know what? It saved the customer. It got them in business. They're working. They're doing their thing. We met people in parking lots of diners to swap out machines because they were broken. You know, they couldn't go to the office. They're not allowed. We had engineers meeting people in parking lots, you know, swapping machines out so they can continue working. We were just doing what we need to do.
So this is it's been a great discussion, guys.
It has been.
I think we're coming down to the end of the period that we had put aside. So you know, Mark, if you allow me, I'll like to thank everyone for joining. I think it's been a great conversation. There's a lot that's been shared, and it's been a great global conversation too. I'm really happy to see the diversity in both those geographic location, the industries that we're in, and our roles in the IT industry as a whole. So, so thank you very much. Is there anything else you wanted to say, Bryan or Mark or Jim?
I just want to thank everybody for joining. It was great input. It was great to hear of everybody's experiences and what they're doing and how we're doing. And you know what? We're in the same community, right? We're doing the same stuff. They're just different kind of customers, but all the same kind of needs. So it was great to do that.
Yeah, and I really enjoyed being on this call, and I hope everybody found some value in it. And I thought the conversation and the dialogue was fantastic. Lots of great perspectives. I really want to thank Vivek and the other guys, Rohil and Ravi from India, because it's about 11 o'clock there. I don't know what time it is. So thank you so much for hanging in there. And
Sure.
I enjoyed this. Thank you for inviting me.
Yep. Thank you for having
Hopefully we
us.
send you to bed with good dreams, guys.
I want to thank you guys for inviting me, and I apologize for being late to the call. I had a Cisco CVE announcement that triggered a bunch of spot checks on things.
Yes,
You're all good.
We know all about that, and we're dealing with those right now. As a matter of fact,
we had one this morning ourselves.
PCERT emails have become the bane of my existence. So,
keeps us in business, makes the customer happy, keeps us secure, right?
That's right.
well,
All right. Thank you
in
so
this
much,
case-
everyone. We really appreciate your time.